Hi, I'm Natasha Sinyanovich, a public radio journalist, and this is Women Like Sex, a myth-busting podcast that examines the many medical, scientific, and social facts about female sexuality that were never, in fact, facts. Especially the very modern-day belief that women don't like sex as much as men do. I'll be speaking with experts, educators, friends, comedians, and listeners of all ages, backgrounds, and parts of the globe to flip the scripts on myths and misconceptions that have long been dictated by not women. Together, we'll replace so much inaccurate messaging with healthier, smarter, factual facts and get the sex ed we wished we'd gotten. Have you ever wanted to watch porn that was not porn? Videos of healthy sex? From people who like each other, who aren't actors or egregiously violent? Videos vetted by humans who ensure inclusivity, safety, and flip the scripts on the male-dominated porn industry? If so, you're among the millions who already enjoy Make Love Not Porn, the brainchild of Cindy Gallop, a renowned international advertising and brand consultant. She's former chair of the British global advertising agency BBH and founder of If We Ran the World. She calls herself the Michael Bay of advertising because she loves to blow shit up. In this interview, Cindy and I talk about Make Love Not Porn, as well as the toxic sexuality that spawned the project and the difficulties and censorship that come with trying to create healthy sex content, including an offshoot educational academy. When we spoke a few months ago, Cindy said she'd been dropped by the bank that had worked with her company for years. She's happy to update that after being debanked 3 more times since then, the 4th time was the charm. Let's begin. What inspired you to create Make Love Not Porn? What did you find was missing?
I never consciously intentionally set out to do anything that I very bizarrely find myself doing today. I date younger men, and 17, 18 years ago now, I realized I was experiencing what happens when today's total freedom of access to hardcore porn online meets our society's equally total reluctance to talk openly and honestly about sex. It's when those two factors converge that porn becomes sex education by default. So I found myself encountering a number of sexual behavioral memes in bed. I went, whoa, I know where that behavior is coming from. I thought, gosh, if I'm experiencing this, other people must be. So 16 years ago, purely as a little side venture, I put up on no money a tiny clunky website at makelovenotporn.com that in its original iteration was kind of a public service announcement. Porn world versus real world. Here's what happens in the porn world. Here's what really happens in the real world. I launched Make Love Not Porn at the TED conference back in 2009. I became the only TED speaker to say the words, "come on my face," on the TED stage. The talk went viral as a result, and it drove this extraordinary global response to my tiny website that I had never anticipated. Thousands of people wrote to me from all around the world, young and old, male and female, straight and gay, telling me things about their sex lives and their porn watching habits they had never told anyone before. And I realized I'd uncovered a huge global social issue. I decided to turn it into a business designed to do good and make money simultaneously, which is what I believe the future of all business should be. I've got to find a way to make it easier for every single person in the world to talk openly and honestly about sex. How am I going to do that? So I decided very simply to take every dynamic in social media and apply them to this one area of universal human experience that no other social network platform allows, to socialize sex. And so I turned Make Love Not Porn into what it is today, the world's first and only user-generated and importantly 100% human-curated social sex video sharing platform. If porn is the Hollywood blockbuster movie, Make Love Not Porn is the badly needed documentary. Funny, messy, loving, wonderful sex that we all have in the real world, bringing it out of the shadows into the sunlight to promote consent, communication, good sexual values and good sexual behavior. I pitched this concept for 2 years, which is how long it took me to find just one angel investor who got it and put up $500,000 in seed funding to build the platform back in 2011.
Were you looking initially for a $2 million investment?
I was subsequently looking for $2 million. I mean, I kept sort of, downgrading my expectations.
Yeah, there's the adage that sex sells, but sex education does not. And you are at the crossroads of the two.
Our tagline at Make Love Not Porn is we are pro-sex, pro-porn, pro-knowing the difference.
I loved the various categories, some of which are recognizable on other platforms. But one of my favorites was Procrasturbation.
Oh, yeah. Everything about Make Love Not Porn is intentionally designed to make it easier to talk about sex. My brilliant user experience designer, Uni Chase, said to me, everything on the internet to do with sex is dark and black. We're going to be white. Equally, one of the reasons that we do not talk openly and honestly about sex in the real world, and this is a circular issue, is we have no socially acceptable vocabulary with which to do so. As you would expect in a male-dominated industry, the language of porn is predominantly male-generated. So the person who coined the term finger blasting didn't have a vagina. Because if you have a vagina and you hear the term finger blasting, you want to cross your legs.
Right.
Pounding, banging, slamming, wrecking, destroying, all terms created by the people who do not possess the soft internal tissue to which those things are being done. So, as you've seen yourself, Natasha, we tag our videos completely differently to the way that porn sites tag their videos. We tag with terms like juicy, succulent. As you say, we tag procrastination because that is frequently what people are doing.
Right.
We tag our oral sex videos downtown. We deliberately tag our anal sex videos from the perspective of the recipient, which is why our tag for anal is ow, 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 hey now. We have a thing on our platform called the Lictionary, which is a glossary of all of these terms. We give you this vocabulary because we want you to take it and use it beyond our platform in the real world. Because this is language you can use to talk about sex in public, in the bar, the coffee shop, without worrying about being overheard. And it's also language you can use to ask for what you want to do in bed in a celebratory, positive, and gender equal way.
Yeah.
And we are deliberately using that language to reshape how people think about sex.
Can you share a couple of examples of what you mean by that?
When we began building Make Love Not Porn, I said to my team, I want us to find a term for the female version that is as quick, easy, and simple to say as blowjob. Because cunnilingus doesn't hack it. Oral sex. When it's quick, easy, and simple to say, it gets said a lot more, it gets asked for a lot more, and it happens a lot more. Our tag for the female version of blowjob is lick job. And our lick job videos are extremely popular because, as my friend sex nerd Sandra likes to say, if your eyebrows aren't wet, you're not doing it right. Another example is I, over the years, have regularly been called up by journalists who will say something along the lines of, so Cindy, I'm writing a story about how porn addiction causes erectile dysfunction in young men. And I go, no, it doesn't. And I explain that in the real world, men are frequently not erect or semi-erect. It's a fact of life. And so we celebrate those of our real world sex videos where men are not erect or semi-erect, derived from the world of ice cream. We tag those videos soft serve because soft serves are yummy and delicious.
I love it.
If more men knew what really constituted great sex, they would not need to take Viagra in the slightest. The entire point of Viagra is for an audience and a market that thinks that sex is penetrative, that is the only sex that matters, whose concept of masculinity is wrapped up in the idea it's about how big it is, how hard it is, absolutely, by the way, porn influenced, and who are absolutely not focusing on their partner's pleasure and all the wonderful ways in which you can have an extremely enjoyable time without ever having penetrative sex. Years ago, when Twitter was not the shit show it is now, and at the time my favorite social platform, I tweeted something about the female orgasm. I had a number of men responding, very nicely, by the way. Again, this is back before all of the trolling and the unpleasantness, which I very rarely got. But Men were replying saying things like, "Ooh, I don't know if I could keep going that long, Cindy." I went, "Guys, newsflash. We don't need your dick to orgasm. We can use your tongue, your fingers, your hand." I said, "I've been known after the guy has come to say, 'Lend me your hand and you don't even have to move it. I'll move it for you.'" But the number of men who, I mean, it didn't even occur to them that an orgasm can be decoupled from penetrative sex, which is amazing. Then, in the early years of Make Love Not Porn, we got this wonderful, very, very long email from a married couple. They'd been married something 20 years. Then the husband was diagnosed with prostate cancer. They operated cancer free, but erectile dysfunction resulted. So they went to a sex therapist who said to them, "There's this site called Make Love Not Porn." And actually, this was the very first email where I realized that therapists were recommending us. This was a gushing email about, "Oh my God, we love your platform. We love your wonderful Make Love Not Porn stars, videos, etc., etc." And they said, "Our sex life is now even better than it was before the surgery. Thank you so much."
One of the reasons that the About page of Women Like Sex, for which I bought the URL not too long ago because no one thought to put those three little words together, the About page is called Flipping the Script, and the company that I started to do this project through is FlipScript LLC. We have to flip the scripts. We are looking at and thinking about sex almost 180 degrees from what it should be.
Yeah.
Sex and intercourse are not synonymous. Sex is an umbrella for many things. What I'm trying to do with this project is join the conversation and help reframe the language and the discussions, especially the fact that when you're talking about heteronormative sex, the P isn't necessary.
Yeah.
Said it before, and I'll say it again here. For a lot of women, it doesn't actually do anything. It may hurt them or leave them indifferent. The number of women of heteronormative women who don't need a penis to orgasm is very high. So we just have to get that out of everybody's mindset.
I designed Make Love Not Porn to be fully diverse and inclusive, and we are. Our members, our Make Love Not Porn stars, are all ages from 18 to 80. We're a global platform. They are all races, ethnicities, male, female, trans, non-binary, straight, LGBTQ, asexual. But in the 12 years we've operated as a business, we've discovered that Make Love Not Porn is especially a revelation to men. More men send us grateful emails, leave appreciative comments to anybody else. And by the way, everyone else loves us too. But this is especially noteworthy because we are something utterly unique that men will find nowhere else on the internet, which is a safe space where men can be and watch other men being open, emotional, and vulnerable around sex. You would not believe the number of men who write to us and say, "I just watched my first video on Make Love Not Porn and afterwards I cried." I wish society understood the opposite of what it thinks is true, to your flip the script point. Women enjoy sex just as much as men, and men are just as romantic as women. Neither gender is allowed to openly celebrate either of those facts. We would all be so much better off if they were. I picked up a wonderful Twitter exchange some time back between two men. The first man had tweeted, as a joke, obviously, "Hey guys, got this really weird fetish. I've got this kink where I want to watch porn where people are honest, loving, loyal, decent, and really like each other." And another man said, "There's this website called Make Love Not Porn where you can watch real couples fucking and making love." He said, "I watched a video where the woman said to her man, 'I love you,' while they're making love." He said, "Sincerely, I cried when I heard that."
I was just watching, as part of the research, some of the video excerpts. And there was one of a couple in their PJs, just two people who look like two regular human beings, which I know is your point.
Yeah.
And just to see them, even just in this 30-second preview, just to see them be tender with one another really made me tear up too.
Women cry as well, that the first time that because again, we showcase what you don't see. I mean, the love, the intimacy, the human connection radiates through the screen.
One of the things that I liked in one of the speeches of yours that I saw, and it may have been the Dublin
Tech Summit, yeah.
Yeah, the Dublin Tech Summit, where what you said is that what you're trying to do with this is to reduce the number of Brock Turners in the world?
Our ultimate mission at Make Love Not Porn is to help end rape culture globally. That may sound like a very big mission, but we have 12 years of proof of concept at a micro level. We help end rape culture by doing something very simple. Our real world sex videos role model good sexual values and good sexual behavior. And here's the important part: we make all of that aspirational versus what you see in porn and popular culture. One man left a comment saying, "This video makes me want to be a better man in the bedroom and in life."
That's wonderful. And for those who may not know, Brock Turner was convicted of rape when he was a student at Stanford, known as the Stanford swimmer. A young man who was convicted and got a ridiculously light sentence for raping an unconscious woman.
That whole case was appalling, and the survivor wrote a really amazing, as you may recall, address to the judge.
It took me, I don't know how many reads, how many tries to get through her entire statement to the judge, because I was either I would stop because I was either enraged or crying and then pick up again. And it was brilliant.
The detail that's always stuck in my mind about that case was he had, drugged this young woman, taken her out to behind the dumpsters, behind the frat house or whatever it was, and thank God he was disturbed raping her by two young male students.
Yeah.
I remember, one of those young men being interviewed saying that he was so horrified by what he saw that he just started crying. That was just a really great detail of, there are good men in this world.
Yes, there are. Of course there are. But I wanted to know about the Make Love Not Porn Academy, the future academy. But first of all, how many subscribers does the site have right now? Does Make Love Not Porn have right now?
Before I answer that question, I think it's important for our listeners, Natasha, to contextualize what are our challenges to growth. So, what I did not realize when I embarked on this venture was that I and my tiny team would fight an enormous battle every single day, not even to grow Make Love Not Porn, just to keep it going. Basically, because every piece of business infrastructure any other tech startup gets to take for granted, we can't. The small print always says no adult content. And this is all pervasive across every single area of the business. So I can't get funded. I couldn't get banked. It took me 4 years to find one bank here in America that would allow me to open a business bank account for Make Love Not Porn. Try doing business for 4 years without a business bank account. And by the way, 2 weeks ago, that bank told me they were debanking Make Love Not Porn and kicked us out. Every single tech service that I need to use to operate a video platform, hosting, encoding, encrypting, the terms of service always say no adult content. In every single case, I've had to go to the people at the top of the company, explain what I'm doing, beg to be allowed to use their service. Sometimes they let me, sometimes they don't. This is, as you can imagine, a very labor-intensive process. Our two biggest business growth inhibitors are, number one, payments. PayPal won't work with adult. Stripe won't. Mainstream credit card processors, fintech products will not work with adult. We have to work with the murky subculture of adult-friendly payment processors who, because anybody adult has nowhere else to go, charge extortionate fees. I pay out 12% of my revenue every month in payment processing fees alone, versus mainstream rates of 3% or less. My other huge growth inhibitor is that we are banned from advertising and promoting ourselves anywhere. We cannot advertise Make Love Not Porn on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Google, YouTube, Reddit, I ask you. Look at what's on Reddit. Reddit bans Make Love Not Porn. We're banned from advertising on Twitter. Look at what's on Twitter. We're banned from doing paid search ads on Google. But right now, all around the world, every day, people search for Make Love Not Porn without knowing that we exist. The top organic search terms that send traffic to us are make love, not porn, real sex, not porn, video sexo na porno. One young man told me that he found us when he Googled porn that is not porn. He was so fed up with everything out there. Fortunately, when you search porn that is not porn, you find Make Love Not Porn.
Right.
Even something as simple as sending emails out to our members. MailChimp won't work with adult content. Klaviyo won't. We have to default to whoever will, which is never the best, most efficient, nor, by the way, the cheapest, even down to recruitment. So my answer to how we're doing on the numbers is nearly 3 million people have signed up in total. We've taken in just under $5 million in revenue. We currently have around 4,000 videos on our platform from 400 Make Love Not Porn stars. But those are figures over a 12-year period. We would be doing dramatically better if those barriers were removed. And by the way, those barriers fall with funding. Those advertising barriers, surprise, surprise, suddenly disappear when I can write big enough checks.
There are tremendous barriers to healthy sex content online, to healthy sex platforms. But tell me about the academy, this educational offshoot, and within all of the barriers that you come up against.
I had the idea for the academy because parents and teachers began reaching out to me from day one of Make Love Not Porn. Obviously, Make Love Not Porn is 18 and over. Although I will just say that for years, parents have been buying their teenage children subscriptions. They tell us, I want my kids to see what happy, healthy, loving sex relationships actually look like. And in the past year, those messages have become increasingly desperate. A few months ago, a mother wrote to us and said, I've just discovered my 13-year-old son is watching Pornhub. I would much rather he watched Make Love Not Porn. I know he's underage. Can we find a workaround? And while we are, absolutely 100% legal, our policy is that parental judgment trumps that. As a parent, you know what's right for your child. And so that mother has now gifted her 13-year-old son a subscription, which we very much hope will help. But basically, parents and teachers asked for the 0 to 18 scenario, we need help. So I had this idea because also I've built up a huge network all around the world of brilliant sex educator friends who face all the same problems I do. Their content gets blocked on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Their accounts get suspended. They're banned from promoting and advertising themselves. Open, healthy sex education is being blocked, censored, and deplatformed everywhere as we speak. So I conceived MakeLoveNotPorn.academy, what I characterize as the Khan Academy of Sex Education. Because Khan Academy, the online tutoring platform, tutors on every other topic under the sun except this one. Educational technology, EdTech, is exploding as a sector, not in this area. So we are designing and building Make Love Not Porn Academy on the same principles as Make Love Not Porn, user-generated, crowdsourced, curated revenue share. Because I'm not about reinventing the wheel. This is an aggregation play. We are building the go-to global hub for the best of the world's sex education content. Our mission at the Academy is to organize the world's sex education information to make it universally accessible and useful. That is a deliberate paraphrase of Google's original mission statement, because in this area, they're not. The algorithm is biased and it's censoring. When you go looking for open, healthy sex education, it is incredibly hard to find deliberately. So last year, we launched our first ever equity crowdfunding campaign. It's our first ever because, like every other piece of infrastructure, no crowdfunding platform would touch us with a barge pole. But the wonderful actress Jamila Jamil, she proposed that she lead the crowdfunding campaign as our lead investor, brought us the WeFunder. We're targeting just over $1 million. We are still a long way away from target. We've raised $438,000 to date. So listeners, please go to wefunder.com/makelovenotporn. Minimum investment is just $100, so it's affordable. What we've raised to date has enabled us to start designing and building the academy. We're in full educator outreach mode at the moment. We are aggregating, and I use the words the best of the world's sex education content deliberately because that is our judgment call from all our network and friends. So educators share with us their own content products, and I use educator very broadly: sexual health and wellness experts, therapists, health professionals, anybody informing and educating this entire area. Our curators vet every single educator and piece of content in the same way that on Make Love Not Porn, we watch every single video submitted, we approve or reject, we publish it. Our criteria are simply your video must be legal, consensual, and real. Then anything goes. For the Academy, your content must be educational, fact-based, and non-judgmental. We will make all of this easily searchable by age appropriateness. So if you're a parent freaking out, going, "Oh my God, my 6-year-old just, well, what do I say?" We will give you the tools and content to be able to have that conversation with a 6-year-old. If you're a teacher of the class of 14-year-olds, here are your age-appropriate curricula. There are a ton of phenomenal schools programs that schools in one part of the world are able to access that others know nothing about. The academy will be where children and young people can access sex education without parental teacher gatekeeping. And the reason that's important is, just one example, I have a friend who's a mother, and as you have to these days, she monitors her kids' browsing history. A few years ago, her son was 8 years old, and she saw to a horror that on the family computer, he had Googled sex for children. This anecdote is adorable and horrifying in equal measure because her son wanted to learn about sex. He was a child. He wanted to learn about sex in a child-appropriate way. He sweetly, innocently Googled sex for children. You can imagine what came back, utterly traumatized.
Yeah, I don't even want to begin to imagine.
For years, people have said to me, "Oh, Cindy, you should go to schools. Make porn should be on the curriculum." And I've always said, no, I shouldn't, because anyone trying to bring sex ed into schools comes up against Parent-Teacher Association, moral panic. But here's the thing, the people keeping sex ed out of schools, in their heads they have this abstract concept, Sodom and Gomorrah will ensue. When I launched the academy, when you can see for yourself at a glance how brilliant, informative, educational, healthy, and non-threatening it is, when you can search it by, as I said, age appropriateness, by cultural sensibility, because we will have Christian sex ed, Jewish sex ed, Muslim sex ed, and importantly, you can pick and choose by personal comfort level. You decide what's right for your family, your classroom, your school. That is when I think I can help get sex ed into schools. I'm building this outside the system to get it into the system.
Having lived in Europe for a long time, and then coming back to the US and then moving to the South, to Nashville for a while, about 10 years ago, it was eye-opening just to see how much progress had been lost, had not been made, how much regression there was, how we were sliding backwards. I mean, I grew up and down the East Coast. We moved a lot. I'm a science brat. My dad's a physicist. But I did spend a good portion of my adolescence in the South, in Virginia. And at the time, I'd never heard of purity culture. And now I know a number of people and some close friends who grew up in that, and they're in their 30s and 40s and even younger now because it's ongoing. The kind of purity-based sex ed.
Oh my God.
There's the lollipop, there's the chewing gum one where they would throw it on the carpet, on the floor, and it would get all nasty and gnarly and say, basically, this is you if you are having sex. There's no way to clean this up. You are forever, it's shame-based.
Yeah, no, exactly.
You are forever dirty. So don't have sex. Just don't do it. As if, telling kids to not do something has ever in history stopped them.
I've spent 16 years seeing every single day up close the enormous human misery and unhappiness caused by the shame, guilt, and embarrassment that we imbue sex with. And when you take the shame, guilt, embarrassment out of sex, it is truly mind-blowingly transformative. I always say that Make Love Not Porn operates in the single biggest market of them all. Not sex, not porn, the market of human happiness.
It's really important to be able to flip the scripts on sex ed because so much of what we teach kids is shame-based or fear-based or even equating it with crime. If we teach girls and boys that all males are pigs or all males want only one thing, we're teaching them to expect violence. We're actually equating the two constantly, as opposed to if it's joyous, then that's sex. Then go ahead. If it's not, stop. Don't.
I designed Make Love Not Porn around all my own beliefs and philosophies, one of which is that everything in life starts with you and your values. I regularly ask people this question: what are your sexual values? And no one can ever answer me because we're not taught to think like that. Our parents bring us up to have good manners, a work ethic, sense of responsibility, accountability. Nobody ever brings us up to behave well in bed. But they should, Because in bed, values like empathy, sensitivity, generosity, kindness, honesty, trust, respect are as important as those values are in every other area of our lives where we're actively taught to exercise them. And when you bring someone up with good sexual values and good sexual behavior openly, when you educate them to behave well in bed, then you never have to worry about consent because they are going into any interaction with absolutely the right kind of attitude. And I've had people say this to me regularly over the years. If you have good values in life generally, then they translate into the bedroom. I go, no, they fucking don't. I date younger men casually and recreationally. I am my own research lab. I see for myself exactly how this plays out in the real world all the time. But no matter how casual a relationship, I have one fundamental criterion. They have to be a very nice person. I have amazing radar for very nice people. I only date utterly lovely younger men in an atmosphere of mutual trust, respect, affection, and liking. But nevertheless, I see them modeling the body language that says, my dick is the center of the universe. Because that's what they've grown up with male lens porn, and that's what they've internalized. So no, you have to overtly and openly educate for good sexual values and good sexual behavior in exactly the same way that you educate for good values behavior in every other area of life.
I may be more pessimistic than you because, I don't know, I think if people were truly honest about their sexual ethics and values, those values wouldn't be that high. I would love, I mean, this is a jump, but I would love a world, and it's not going to happen in my lifetime, but I would love a world where consent classes were not necessary.
Yep.
To me, consent classes are horrifying because it means we've failed.
Yep.
We failed at teaching children how to treat private parts. Whereas most kids, by the time they're 4 or 5, they already understand not to mess with private property, right? You can't steal someone else's bicycle. Doesn't matter how much you love riding bikes. Private property should not be violated.
I disagree with your pessimism, Natasha, when I have the opportunity to scale the impact of Make Love Not Porn. Now, I'll give you just one example of why I say that. A few weeks back, I was invited to do something by the Greenwich, Connecticut chapter of the National League of Young Men. I'd never heard of this organization before 2 mothers reached out with this invitation. The National League of Young Men is a non-profit that operates nationwide for mothers and their high school teenage sons. Their objective is to turn high school aged boys into fine, upstanding community leaders and participants of the future. So these 2 mothers reached out from Greenwich, Connecticut to say that they would like me to come and talk to a group of 50 high school boys, 14 to 18-year-olds, about Make Love Not Porn. Kudos to those mothers for seeing how necessary this was. So it was at the home of one of the mothers, had a big kind of living area they could cram a lot of boys into. And they also had the ones who couldn't attend were there on Zoom. They fed them first. And then, the mothers who were there said, okay, we are now going off into another room. We hear nothing. We have no idea what we're going to talk about. We've got no idea what Cindy's going to say to you. So I had put together a short presentation about Make Love Not Porn, about how it came into being, objectives, including, I don't usually do this when presenting, but I went through every single one of those original Porn World versus Real World slides from the original website, because I wanted them to know that I was going to go there. I mean, those slides are graphic. And as you can imagine, with a room full of teenage boys, first of all, like tons of snorting and giggling and all of that, but they settled down. And then, I opened it up to Q&A. And again, as you'd expect with a room full of teenage boys, to begin with deathly silence. Then eventually one boy asked a question, and then the floodgates opened. And I assured them that this is completely confidential and you really can ask me anything. And honestly, they were adorable. It was all about, how do you get to be good in bed? What do girls like? Do girls really like big cocks? Et cetera, et cetera. I was able to land some messaging that I really wanted to. So someone was asking about contraception and condoms, and then somebody else said, but what about Plan B? And I just burst. I went, have you seen the political situation in this country? Of course you haven't, you teenage boy. But I had the opportunity to say, listen, this one's on you. This is the situation for girls and women. Okay, their own agency is being taken away from them. This one's on you. Always, always carry condoms. Always, always use them. No exceptions. It was a fantastic session. The boys reported back very positive about it, so much so that actually the mothers organizer reached out to me and said, now their mothers all want to talk to you, which I was very happy to do.
Yeah.
Teenage boys have been writing to me for 16 years, as have teenage girls as well. Years ago, a teenage boy wrote to me and said, I'm 15, I'm having sex with my girlfriend. Please tell me how to make love, not porn. I really want to know, and I know my parents sure as hell won't. And no matter how stressful building make love and porn is, I get an email like that, I drop everything, I write back at length, in detail. And he wrote me and said, thank you so much. My girlfriend said to me, where you learn that?
Right. Where did that come from?
Young people, boys, young men are desperate for the right kind of education. They're not getting it. When they get it, it makes a real difference.
Oh yeah, that I do agree with. And I see that with my, when I was teaching, because of my wheelhouse, a lot of students would come to me and share or intimate stories of sexual assault. But then they would also, I had young men come to me and say, hey, I just want to make sure that I understand what coercion is, or come up and tell me. I know
Yep.
what it is. And it was heartening to see, a number of young people understand that a lot of the old ways of thinking, particularly the stranger in the bushes, that they understand that foliage is not necessary, because it's almost always going to be someone that you know. So how do they treat somebody better? I mean, I am heartened.
Good.
But at the same time, tomorrow I'm going to be talking to a young man in his early 20s. He's also someone that already wants to change the world. He has a very healthy attitude towards sex and sexuality, but says some of the young men that he knows don't necessarily understand that, or he tries in his own world to teach them what it means to respect another person, how you have to, and how that's just going to be more enjoyable all around for everyone.
That's fantastic. And by the way, just because it's relevant to this conversation, I was blown away when we began hearing, as we do regularly, from survivors of rape, sexual assault, sexual abuse. We hear from female survivors, male survivors, trans, non-binary survivors. They tell us that Make Love Not Porn helped them reclaim their bodies. We help them feel able to be sexual again post-trauma. And it's not just people who watch our videos. We have a number of Make Love Not Porn stars who've told us that being able to share themselves sexually in a completely safe and trustworthy space has helped them process and heal from sexual trauma.
That is a wonderful secondary use. When you were talking about having good radar for good men, was that always the case? Do you think, has that changed? Has it been consistent from your 20s to now?
I'm that very rare woman who has no sexual trauma in her background. That is very rare, unfortunately, as we all know.
Yeah.
And I've only dated and engaged with very nice men. So I'm lucky. I had a very happy family background. My parents brought me up, my sisters up, with a strong sense of values and all of that.
Were your parents open about sex?
Oh my God, no, not in the slightest. So my father was English. He died a few years ago. My mother is Malaysian Chinese. I was born in the UK. When I was 6, we moved to Brunei and Borneo. So I grew up in Asia. Very old-fashioned plus Asian parent. In Asia, no, they never ever talked about sex. The entire extent of my mother's conversation on the topic was her saying to me and my sisters, girls, you stay virgin till you marry. That was it. I came out of that, fortunately. I totally internalized that, went to university, which was the first time I really engaged with boys, spent a lot of time doing everything but, as you do. And then when I finally had sex, I went, oh my God, this is amazing. Why are we so messed up about it? And so I feel very lucky because I came through that repression with no repercussions. I just embraced sex with, oh my God, this is fabulous. Why the hell are we so fucked up about it?
I've been missing out.
Yeah, exactly.
So we are approaching the end. And is there anything I haven't asked you that you want to talk about?
Because of our challenges raising funding, and by the way, the anti-DEI backlash is making it now even more difficult for underrepresented founders to be able to raise funding. I've partnered with this wonderful nonprofit called Inspire Access, started by mother-daughter duo Patrice and Leah Brickman 3 years ago, because there are a lot of people out there with a lot of philanthropic capital, donor-advised funds, who think the only way you change the world is by writing checks to nonprofits, buying that table at the gala dinner for a good cause. And so what Inspire Access does is, as a nonprofit, you can donate from your donor advised fund. You can make tax deductible donations to them, and they channel those funds to underrepresented founders with for-profit social impact ventures like mine. Just flagging that up for anybody who might be listening, who has philanthropic capital that they would like to see work at changing the world.
Duly noted, and thank you very much, Cindy.
Absolute pleasure.
That was Cindy Gallup, founder of Make Love Not Porn and its academy. The latter is ramping up to launch in the fall. Cindy says 100 sex health educators are already lined up to join the aggregator site when it does. Links to the people, sites, and fundraising platforms we discussed, as well as Cindy's socials and talks, they can be found on the womenlikesex.com episodes page, episode 7. Women Like Sex is a flipped script production. It is executive produced and edited by me, Natasha Sinyanovic. Website design and artwork is by Ted Nunes. Edesio Martinez is associate producer. Vic Vinayak assisted on mixing and editing. For more information, for episodes and swag, or to subscribe to the podcast or Patreon, please visit womenlikesex.com, the Women Like Sex YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is Women Like Sex. Pass it on.